Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started here soon.
Get on my seat.
Please be careful on the bleachers.
There's a new funding mechanism for the school. They're charging $100 for each bottle of water at the bottom shelf.
Is it really?
We put $1 in it. Push the button, it goes $99.95. We're like,
Yeah, that's pretty smart. So, I'll get ready. Let us start with the Pledge of the Allegiance, please, or Pledge to the Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As is a personal tradition of mine, I would ask everybody to please give yourselves a moment of silence as we reflect upon our friends and family who may have been injured or have passed away over the last year, and especially for any of our troops, whether we know them or not. But a moment of silence, please, for those who we've lost this year. Thank you very much. All right. It's a large crowd. Thank you all for coming. First thing, I want to make sure that you all keep your name tags. These are important, especially the green dots. If we do have a secret ballot, we're going to use the stickers to make sure that we keep track of who voted and who has not. So at the last meeting, we had some concerns about being able to manage that. We knew that there would be more people this time, so there is kind of a method to our madness. Not everybody is the same green dot. There aren't meant to be name tags. They're meant to identify the fact that you are registered, and then the green dot will entitle you to vote if we do go to a secret ballot. Warrant, State of New Hampshire, Town of Newmarket. To the inhabitants of the Town of Newmarket in the County of Rockingham in said state, qualified to vote in the town affairs, you are hereby notified of the annual meeting. The first session for the transaction of all business other than voting by official ballot will be held Tuesday, February 7th, 2012 at 7 p.m. at the Newmarket Junior Senior High School Gymnasium. The first session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of each warrant article. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. A, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. B, warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for final vote on the main motion as amended. The second session of the annual meeting to elect officers of the town by official ballot, to vote on questions required by law to be inserted on said official ballot, and to vote on all budget warrant articles from the first session on the official ballot shall be held Tuesday, March 13th, 2012 at the Newmarket Town Hall. The polls shall be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I want to add one thing about amending warrant articles. In the most recent session of the legislature, they changed the statute. You can no longer eliminate the purpose. In the past, you may have seen or heard about other towns changing warrant articles to read just to see, and then they would eliminate all the other words. And in New Hampshire, that used to be legal. The legislature has passed a new law that says that you cannot eliminate the purpose. So you can modify it, you can change it, you can do tweaks to it, but you cannot make a result that eliminates the purpose of the warrant article. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Pardon me? Oh, my name? My name is Clay Mitchell, and I'm the town moderator for the town of Newmarket. Thank you very much. Just assume everybody knows who I am. I also want to remind you that my job here today is to make sure that the discussion is fair. As is the past in my practice, It's my job to set the rules and procedures. It's my job to keep order. I like to have everybody who wants to have a chance to speak first before we go through the second time for each person. So if you have something to say, please say it, sit down, let somebody else come up. And I would like to go through everybody who wants to talk before people get a second chance. Once I start hearing people repeating the same things over and over again, I'll try and move the discussion along. We all have families, we all have jobs. Most people have jobs. We're going to try and get out of here in a reasonable time, and we're going to try and get through the subject matter of the meeting, okay? First, Counselor, you'd like to read a statement?
Okay, can everyone hear me? Good. First of all, thank you for coming this evening. It's good to have a large turnout. I have a statement that I'd like to read, and if there are any questions afterwards, we'll do the best we can to answer them. This year's town meeting represents a change from prior years in which Newmarket held its school meeting in March and its town meeting in May. As a result of the special election in December, the town and school meetings will both vote by official ballot on March 13th, 2012. This change should make the budget process easier and less time-consuming for everyone involved. Unfortunately, this year's change may have possibly resulted in some procedural errors that will need to be corrected by the town. First, for reasons known to all of you, the Newmarket High School building was closed on Monday, January 30th, 2012, which was the last day for posting the town warrant. State law requires that the town warrant be posted in 2 locations, one of which must be at the place of the meeting. While the town warrant was posted in 4 locations on Friday, January 27, 2012, it was not posted at the place of the meeting until the morning of Tuesday, January 31st, 2012. Town Council has advised that the failure to provide proper notice requires that the town hold a special meeting under RSA 40:16 to cure the procedural defects in the meeting. This special town meeting will need to be held after the official ballot vote on March 13th, 2012. For the purpose of today's town meeting, Town Council advises that we are required by law to proceed as planned and cure the deficit after the official ballot vote on March 13th, 2012. On behalf of the Town Council, I apologize for this unanticipated inconvenience. I have asked that this statement and the special town meeting law be made available at the town hall and on the town website. It is also my intention to place this matter on the agenda for the Town Council's next meeting on February 15th, 2012, and to answer any questions at that time.
Does anybody have any questions? We'll try and take questions. If your question is short, I'll repeat it. If it's long, I would ask that you come to the podium.
Mike LeBranch, I'm the chairman of the Newmarket Town Council.
The question was, will the speakers identify themselves before they speak? Yes. Can you identify yourself?
Roseanne Quox, Budget Committee.
They can't hear you.
Hold the mic up to yourself.
Roseanne Quox, Budget Committee. I'd like to have the statement just read by the chair, Mike LeBranch, put on the website so everybody could get a good chance to read it thoroughly.
I'm sure it will be done, right? Okay. So, since we have so many people here tonight, I thought I'd take a little moment to remind you what this meeting is about. This is your meeting. This is a legislative meeting. This is not a public hearing of the Town Council or a public hearing of the Budget Committee. This is your meeting. It's about what you want. My job here is to set rules so that it's fair and balanced. I want to make sure that the dynamic works that way. So I want you to participate when you want to, and I want you to feel confident to say what you need to say, okay? So let's begin. We will have articles. The articles will be, there will be a motion that involves the articles, and then we'll have discussion on them, and then we can do amendments and things like that. It's not meant to be a very formulaic process. It's meant to be an easy process, And the job here is to get what you want on the ballot in accordance with the law. That's really how this works, okay? So I will read Article 1 now. To choose all necessary town officers for the ensuing year. Town council, 2 positions for 3 years. Town clerk, tax collector, 1 position for 3 years. Budget committee, 3 positions for 3 years. Budget committee, 1 position for 2 years. Town moderator, 1 position for 2 years. Planning board, 2 positions for 3 years. Library trustee, 1 position for 3 years. Trustees of the trust funds, 1 position for 3 years. Supervisor of the checklist, 1 position for 6 years. Do I have a motion to put this article forward? Thank you. Brian Hart, move to put the article forward. Second by Chair LaBranch. Is there any discussion on this warrant article? Seeing none, I will allow for a voice vote. All in favor of moving Article 1 forward to the town meeting, please signify by saying yay. Yay. Those opposed? Yeas have it. See how easy that is? Article 2, bond for the installation of a new 16-inch water main and underground electric and telephone utilities and tank vault improvements from the water tower on Great Hill to the car wash on Route 108. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $975,000 gross budget for the installation of a new 16-inch water line and underground electric and telephone utilities and tank vault improvements from the water tower on Great Hill to the car wash on Route 108, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $975,000 of bonds and notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, New Hampshire RSA 33-1 at sequential as amended, and to authorize the town council to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. Further, to authorize the town council to apply for, negotiate, contract for, seek, and do all things necessary to obtain such federal and state grants and aid, contribution, assistance, and to participate in the State Revolving Fund, SRF, RSA 48614, established for this purpose as may be available, and to adopt any resolution relating thereto, and to take such other actions as may be necessary to effect the issuance, negotiation, sale, and delivery of such bonds or notes as shall be in the best interest of the town of Newmarket, New Hampshire. However, town council authority to undertake the project is contingent upon the receipt of funding from the State Revolving Fund, which will provide for 20% principal and interest forgiveness of the gross appropriation and interest rate cap of 3.104%. 2/3 ballot vote required, recommended by the town council by a vote of 6-1, recommended by the budget committee by a vote of 6-3. May I have a motion on this article?
Motion to move it forward as presented.
Motion is moved by Brian Hart. Seconded. Would anybody like to provide any further background on this warrant article to describe? Does everybody know where Great Hill is? Great Hill is the... This is about... anybody want to say anything further on it? Yes, ma'am.
In Rubino, and I live at 71 Grant Road in Newmarket, and I think I'm stupid. But here is something. Does this increase my taxes anymore? This one article. Does this increase my taxes? Does this take my tax money for this project?
Let me have that question answered for you, okay? That's all right? You want to?
I'll start. This article is voted on by the entire town, but the people that are paying for it are the water users. So if you receive water from the town through the, that's not me, through the town water, there you go, through the town water system, then the rate users will pay for it. The good news is that there are sufficient funds in the current water rate that they will not have to increase the water rate to bond this amount of money and pay for the annual cost. So this particular warrant article will not increase the water rate for the water users.
Could we use this money for other projects like paying for a school?
No.
No.
The water system is funded by the water users. The more water you use, the more you pay to the bill. You get a quarterly bill, and it can only be used for the water system and associated improvements.
And does this strictly go to the car wash? I mean, it sounds like a conspiracy where it just goes to the car wash.
I'm going to step into the fact. I think that just is describing the location. I don't think that is meant to be a supply.
It sounds like it's just for the car wash. That's what it sounds like.
And spoke about it a little more. I know. Sean, are you a resident of the town of Newmarket? No. Sean, can you describe your position with the town, please?
I am the superintendent of water and sewer. And what has happened is...
Hold on a second. Without objection, I would like to have him speak. Does anybody in the town meeting have an objection to a non-resident speaking to explain this warrant article? Thank you.
Currently, we have actually replaced the water main from the car wash on 108 through the downtown all the way to the bridge before Bay Road. This would complete the 16-inch run from the car wash where we left off and run it all the way up to the water tank.
Thank you very much. You might want to stay near the microphone in case there are any other questions. Does anybody else have anything to add or any questions? Ma'am, do you mind if I let everybody else to see if they have any other questions first? Thank you. Yes, sir. I understand. Yes. In order to do that, I will need a motion to amend the article with very specific language in it. Yes. I'm gonna have to ask you, do you have, I need the actual language that you want the article to read. So if you want, I will ask somebody at my right or left to try and come up with something. May I ask, is the vagueness associated with this to the car wash thing? Is that what's confusing people? Excellent. So we're going to work on that, and then we're going to have a motion to amend the warrant article. Yes. I think that's, if that's an accurate statement, I think that's an excellent idea. Ms. Quox.
If we just change the language from water tower on Great Hill to Route 108 and just eliminate the car wash on. Is that too required? Does that clarify that it's not going to be car wash?
Let's move through people that have questions or concerns about the subject matter. Sir, at the top.
Good read from the water tower on Great Hill to connect to the existing water system.
Yes. Hold on. You want to try and amend the article? Okay. Yes.
I'll make a motion to amend the article to read power on Great Hill to connect with the existing 16-inch water main in the vicinity of the car wash on Route 108.
You hear that amendment?
No, there's feedback.
I mean, can you try and read it?
Can you read my writing? Scribble down the bottom.
It would start after, from the water tower on Great Hill to connect with the existing 16-inch water main in the vicinity of Route 108 of the car wash. Please.
Vicinity of the car wash on Route 108.
Okay.
Yes.
Who seconded it? So now, this is where the procedure gets confusing. We are going to discuss and talk about this amendment. Ma'am? You seconded it. Are you comfortable with the address being placed in front of the car wash?
The car wash is not important to me.
So just the address.
108 is where the pipe is going to connect.
Great. So we'll use the address. What is the address?
For all I care.
Can we have your name, please? Pardon me?
William Foster.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is the address?
80.
80?
80 Exeter.
80 Exeter Road.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions about the amendment? Yes, sir. Not about the amendment. Okay, so let's get through this amendment first. So this amendment is improvements from the water tower on Great Hill to connect with the existing 16-inch water main in the vicinity of 80 Exeter Road. Any more questions? Yes, sir. Yes. So the title will now read, Bond for the Installation of a New 16-Inch Water Main and Underground Electric and Telephone Utilities and Tank Vault Improvements from the Water Tower on Great Hill to connect with the existing 16-inch water main in the vicinity of 80 Exeter Road. We good? Yeah,
seconded?
you amended it.
Yeah.
You're
I'm okay with the amendment.
You're okay with this? So the amendment is as written. Both sections of the warrant article that refer to the car wash have been amended to include that language as well as the title. So the title has been amended as well as the text in the warrant article. Any more questions on this amendment? Yes, sir. We'll get right back to that as soon as we have a vote on this amendment. Right now, we're dealing with the text of the language of the amendment. Anybody have any questions on the amendment? No. Seeing none, I'm going to call for a voice. Yes, sir.
Bob Rubino, 71 Grant Road. The question is it necessary? Why do we need that 16-inch main?
We will get to that as soon as we vote on the text. All we're voting on now is what the text of this article is going to be.
I'll wait.
As soon as we're done with that, we will get to these substantive issues. Everyone in favor, we're going to do this by voice vote. Everyone in favor of changing the text, as I have already said it 3 or 4 times, on the Great Hill, from the water tower on Great Hill to connect with the existing 16-inch water main in the vicinity of 80 Exeter Road in place of car wash, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed to the amendment, please say nay. The ayes have it. Now, so this warrant article has been amended. Now we're going to move on to the substantive discussion. Sir, would you like to re-ask your question? The question is, and the request for a confirmation is, that only the ratepayers will be footing the bill for this project. And the answer, as described by Mr. Hart, unless I'm going to be corrected, is yes, but that there is sufficient funds in the rate balance that it will not affect the ratepayers' current rates. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that just for this year, it's not going to affect the rates, or is it?
I didn't hear.
You say it's not going to affect the rates, it's going to change next year or the year after, the maintenance of that project?
My opinion is that they're working now? Check. Okay, there we go. So the reason I say that it will not is because right now I think we're putting $359,000 from the water users into the water fund capital reserve. That's more than enough money to cover the cost of this bond. And so if this passes and the town goes forward with the work and it costs $975,000, the bond payment will be over a period of years. It will not be $359,000. You reduce the amount of money going to the capital reserve, and then you use the remainder amount to pay for this bond. Assuming they do that logical thing, which is they were setting aside money for future capital reserve costs, this is a capital cost, then it will not increase the water rate. There are other projects that will be on the future ballots that likely will change the water rate, but this is what we're trying to tackle one at a time reasonably.
Sir.
Bruce Spector.
Bruce Spector.
It also mentions underground electricity, telephone utilities. Is that just for the utilities to the water tank, or is that for all of the power and telephone lines in that area being put underground?
The question is relating to the telephone, utilities, and other associated improvements, and whether they're associated solely with the tank or if they're for other users. Is that your question?
Correct.
Thank you. Sean, can you answer that question, please?
The improvements to the electrical, currently we need to make those improvements so that we can support the cell towers that are on the tank. And the reason why that is important is we receive approximately $61,000 in revenues from those cell towers, which helps offset what we have to charge for the water. So it's a revenue source for us.
Thank you. Sir, you have a follow-up question?
What I'm asking though is, there's a bunch of residents in the area, other places that their utilities will be put underground, which really I don't see where that money should be coming from the water users.
It's not. This is just for the tank.
Just for the tank.
Correct.
Houses and commercial areas will still have full service.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, you had a question. You were next. You've waited patiently, I think.
Yeah, my question was, why is it necessary? Is it absolutely necessary?
Thank you. Sean, you want to take that one as well?
Back in 2010, we did a water CIP program where we looked at the entire water system, which identified over 40 projects that the town should be working towards getting done. And the water line from the tank to the vicinity of the car wash, the 16-inch line, that line is currently a 10-inch line, which was put in approximately around 1896. It's an old line. It also will help improve the fire flows through the main street. The other issue on that is that the tank vault up at the tank is identified through the CIP plan as it's got several safety issues with it. Some are electrical, it's also a confined space, and this is another thing that's part of the capital improvement plan that will eliminate those issues.
Thank you. Anyone else? I saw some other hands up. Yes, sir.
Your handout shows that one person on the town council and 3 people from the budget committee voted against the warrant article. Are you care to tell us why?
Can you state your name, please? Thank you. And it's the handout, which I think he's referring to the votes here. Would any of the people who voted against this, would they care to offer up to the town meeting a reason why?
Hello, my name's Leo Fillion. I'm on the budget committee. I've been on a capital improvement program committee for the last 8 years since it was changed from the town administrator to a capital improvement program committee. My problem with this item is based on all our discussions we've had, this is one of the items, but to me, the most pressing item that we have is additional water. I was surprised the town took the McIntosh well off it, but now they're talking about taking capital reserve money to pay for this. In my opinion, we should be pushing ahead with the McIntosh well. There's been a disconnect between the town council and town people in the last few years on how much we should spend on the McIntosh well. Town council wanted to spend $2.3 million. There's a question of whether it needs the treatment. We spent over $500,000 so far on the McIntosh well, and after last year's vote, it's sort of dead, and it looks like if we don't do anything now, it's going to be dead for another year. To me, a more important project is to continue. The town council has the authority to use capital reserve money to install the McIntosh well, and we've had proposals from Wesson and Sampson to just connect the McIntosh well to the existing water system. Would cost about $651,000. With engineering would be about $750,000, almost $800,000. To me, that is important, and I don't like seeing capital reserve money being used for this item, which to me is nowhere as important as the McIntosh well is. The McIntosh well is, we spent $50,000 from Emory and Garrett to run a series of tests on it, and some of us felt that the test proved that we did not need treatment. The council did not see eye to eye with that, and they've been pushing to spend $3.5 million rather than $700,000 to put this well in. I feel that if we left the money in the capital reserve fund, the town council has the authority to install that McIntosh well in this year, and we could continue the testing so that by next year we would have a definite answer as to whether or not treatment is needed or not. And that's why, to me, I don't like to see capital reserve money being used for this when I think it can be much better used to construct the McIntosh well.
Thank you. Would anybody like to add to that, or does anybody have any additional reasons for voting against it that they would like to share with the meeting? Councilor Levy.
I voted against, I don't know how well this, I voted against it because I didn't think it was as important a priority. I voted against it because I didn't think it was as high a priority, and I wanted to keep as much money in the CIP as possible. And I felt that with the economy being what it is, holding off on this was, from my standpoint, the best thing we could do at the time. So that's why I voted against it.
Yes, sir.
Electrical on the round, do we have an opportunity of making more revenue than just $61,000 a year? Is there a potential of making more money, which is more quote-unquote tax base coming into the town? Which might be a good question.
The question, I think, is by upgrading the electrical, is it possible to have more facilities on the tank and therefore more revenues to town? Is that fair?
It would have to be looked at to see how much more could actually go on the tank, though.
Okay, so the first part of your thing that everybody may not have heard, you are increasing electrical capacities, so from an electrical standpoint there could be more, but we still have issues associated with the tank that may require further study before more antennas go on it.
Correct.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, Councilor Branch.
I'd just like to answer some of the questions or make a statement to some of the statements that have been made so far. And I can only speak for myself as a councilor because I voted in favor of this. We originally had two other articles, one for the McIntosh well and one for the wastewater treatment facility, which I voted against. And the reason for that was, at this particular time, I felt that those were not items that we needed to address immediately. There is a lot of contention between treatment, non-treatment at the McIntosh well. I will say that as far as I'm concerned, there will be no additional money spent for treatment there unless it's absolutely necessary. We've been told by many people that that is not a standalone well, which means that should we lose the wells up on 152, the Bennett well or the Sewell well, that this well could not supply the town with a water source. Part of my thought process on this was, with other things that are going on in the town, if we could do something that we could afford, which was basically this particular project, replacing a 100-year-old pipe that could go tomorrow for all we know. The pipe could break tomorrow, and then we've got to get up there and fix it anyway. So that's the reason why I supported this article, and it does not affect the rate of the users because the funds are there, as it was mentioned earlier, and it's something that was on the list of things to be done. And I would really hate to see the town go a year without doing anything at all on its water system, because we all know what can happen when you go years without doing maintenance.
Supported this, and I don't know if Sean, if you or Chief Mulaski have, one of the biggest reasons I did was particularly about the fire, the lack of water, and I know, Sean, you had specific numbers a couple meetings back about what we're supposed to have and what we are drawing and how this would increase it. So if anyone has that, I think it'd be very beneficial.
Currently, right now, on the main street, we can draw, for fire flows, is about 2,900 gallons a minute. We're not seeing the full potential of what the work we've done in the past for the main street and putting the 16-inch line in. And the Rivermore Landing, we did in 2004, they did a fire flow, the insurance, the ISO, and it was determined that that building should have a 5,500 gallon a minute draw at that hydrant by Rivermore for 4 hours. With the new 16-inch line, when it's completed, we'll be able to draw about 8,000 gallons a minute at that hydrant. Now, at this point, the tank wouldn't be big enough to supply that amount of water for 4 hours. But as one of the other projects in the future that's listed in the capital improvement plan is to put up a new water tank. So this is one step towards getting to where we need to be. 5,500.
Questions, comments? Ms. Quatts?
Roseanne Quatts, Budget Committee.
Can you pull your mic a little closer to you? Thanks.
Sean, would we be able to flush the hydrants once that is in, or does that have nothing to do with the size of that pipe? Is it just the amount of water in the tank?
We don't have enough storage or supply to flush the hydrants.
Okay, and I also believe that if we increase and improve the electricity to that tower and we can put more antennas on there, that the town itself would not receive the tax money. That would go into the capital reserve for the water department, am I correct? Because that's who keeps the money now, so it wouldn't go to the general taxpayer.
It doesn't go to the general, it goes to the water department.
Just to the water department.
Correct.
And did we get the cost benefit analysts that Leo Fillion had asked for on that yet?
I believe what Mr. Fillion asked for was what we were going to see for flows on the main street.
And did we get that?
Yes.
That's what you just explained?
Yes.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what you guys are talking about, but it doesn't sound like something to do with this article.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, sir?
I've put my hand up 4 times already.
I'll get to you next then.
Is it accurate to say this is the highest priority project?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I can't hear you.
Is it accurate to
I don't know who's going to be qualified to answer that question. Anyone? Okay.
Phil Nazaro, Town Council. The way I look at it is there's, 40 things that we have to fix within the water system right now, and we also know the fiscal situation of the town right now, and the water users, especially since all of this is borne by the water users, which is only a percentage of the people in the town. So the option was either do nothing or find a project that fits within the budget that we can afford right now. And that needs to be done, and that is a priority. So I would say that one of the reasons I voted on this is that out of the 3 water sewer projects that were presented us, this is the one that was a priority enough to be a warrant article that the water department brought forward, but also something that was fiscally responsible to do right now. So, you know, we have an option of doing nothing, but I think that this is the best of both worlds right now in that it does not impact the rate. It's pulling money out of the CIP, which is what the CIP was supposed to do, and helps maintain our system so we don't end up with a disaster later on down the road, which will cost private property and public funds. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
My question is are there other projects that are higher priority? Even though you're making the decision that this fits a budget line that you want to meet, are there other higher priority projects that have not been presented to the town as warrant articles?
Sean, do you want to try and answer about priority projects in the water department? Just working on it. Try it now.
What happened is that the AECom report put forth over 40 projects. The town council reviewed the 40 projects and came up with 6 projects. They didn't come up with exactly which one was the top one or which one was the 6th one. They put those projects forward as the ones that they were going to fiscally do in a timely manner.
Thank you.
So this actually does 2 out of the 6 projects, this project, out of the 6.
Mr. Porterata.
Ed Porterata, 177 Exeter Road. How many lines come out of this tank besides this one old one you said? Is there another line coming out of that water tank?
I think I'm going to ask Sean to provide an answer to that question.
Well, you put a 16-inch line on going towards the 108 car wash. How will that decrease the pressure on the other line coming out of there, which is a what, 10-inch? You know, but right now we have a fluctuation where I live, up and down.
The question was whether the addition of the 16-inch pipe to the tank would affect pressures in other areas of the water system. Sean, could you provide a little bit more to that answer so everybody can hear you?
The only way, and I understand what he's asking, is if we put this 16-inch line, is that going to create such a difference on a draw or a pull to affect someone else's line? The only time that would happen is if there was a major pull, if there's like a hydrant that was open and we're drawing so much because there was a fire or an emergency situation. However, on looking at it throughout the system, it should not make a change on someone's line if in normal operating conditions.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments, concerns? Yes, Mr. Fillion.
I'd like to give some context to it. When I first came on the water board in 1970, we were running downtown about 650, 700 gallons per minute. 1975, when we put up the water tank, we increased the height of the tank and we went up to about 900 gallons a minute downtown. We've been living with 900 gallons a minute since 1975, now 35 years we've had downtown. Now with this 16-inch, we now have 2,700 gallons a minute. That's 3 times the water availability we now have downtown than we've had for the last 35 years. There's another thing that the council has talked several times over the last 25 years or so, was putting a dry hydrant on Durham side. That on a bridge, put it into the river, and that would have been able to provide 2,000 to 3,000 gallons a minute on the main street where, which probably talking about $10,000 to do that. It's been brought up at the council half a dozen times in the last 25 years, and it just seems never to go anywhere. But to me, that's a cheap solution to get a couple thousand gallons, and it's right at the point where the mills and everything are. And this would be an additional, and it also, one of the problems, if you start drawing a lot of water out of the mains downtown, what you're doing is reducing the pressure in the sprinklers throughout the mills. If you had something like this, a separate source, you could be putting water, fighting the fire without affecting your sprinklers inside the building. If you use the same main to fight the fire is feeding the sprinklers in the building for fire protection, you run into somewhat of a problem.
Yes, sir. Move to a vote. Thank you. Does any, sir, could you state your name, please?
Bill Barr, 27th Street.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can you state your name, please?
Right there.
Got that? So this is a motion to move the question, which means we are now going to move to the vote. What you have to do is vote on the question and move the question. So all those in favor of moving the question and voting on the article as amended, please signify by voice saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? We will be moving the question. We are now going to vote on this warrant. I'm going to try and do it by voice vote. If I find that the voice vote is non-conclusive, we will raise hands, okay? So, the article, would you like me to read it again? No, thank you. I also would like to not read it again. The article that we have been discussing, the question is whether you will vote in favor to put this article forward as amended with the new language that is more descriptive about the location of the 16-inch line. All those in favor of this article going forward, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Does anybody have any questions about the turnout of that vote? I'm just being formal. Thank you. The ayes have it. This warrant will go forward as amended. Article 3, operating budget. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate as a gross operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $9,068,043. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $9,644,860. Which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Newmarket or by law, or the town council may hold one separate special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013-10 and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote required, recommended by the town council by a vote of 7-0, recommended by the budget committee by a vote of 10-0. Does anybody have any questions? Ma'am?
Rochelle Sharples. It's not so much a question, just a comment for a lot of the people that go in and vote on these warrant articles automatically write no, 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 all the way down. When in fact, if they're doing that on this budget, by voting no, you're going to be voting for a higher budget, correct?
That is correct.
That happened a few years ago, and I had to read it 4 times, but I just wanted to let people be aware out there in TV land that by voting no on this, they will be voting for a higher budget. And I'm sure it's probably too late. I don't know if you can answer this question, or Becky could. By changing the wording in the second warrant article, does that also change the description? Because it mentions Mr. Carr way up top there mentioned earlier that it also says car wash on Route 108 in the second sentence.
Yes, we clarified in the amendment that it would change both the title
both
and the
of them.
text.
Okay, I didn't hear that part. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Buzz Dieterle, 4 Smith Garrison Road. For clarification purposes, we're looking at a spread here of what, about $600,000, is that correct? Now, so we don't have any confusion next year when the tax bills come out. We're looking at a $600,000 decrease that will affect our tax rate. Is that correct? Is there any possibility that the accounting problems that have created a deficit currently are going to spill over and eat into that $600,000, and we're going to get another surprise next year?
Anyone?
It's not a trick question.
All right, I'm Matt Angel. I'm the acting finance director. Right now, the deficit in the revenues is about $256,000, I believe, is the last number. We froze about $100,000 worth of expenditures, which brings it down to about $158,000. We're looking at some other revenues that might close the gap even further. Okay, so basically, the answer is going to be no. The revenue deficit this year will not affect your tax rate next year.
Okay, one final question. Is it likely to predict that you will not be taking any money out of reserves to artificially lower the tax rate next year because the reserves are already too low?
As far as I know, that's in the revenue model, there are no reserves used to lower the tax rate.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I have a very specific question. In the budget as proposed, is the current operation of the transfer station?
The question is very specific. Is the current operation of the transfer station affected in the current proposed budget? Can you take it?
Yeah. I believe the only thing that would change is that spring cleanup won't happen anymore. But other than that, the transfer station operation will continue.
Yes, please.
Currently, it's not planned to be in this budget, and then every year after this, the budget committee and the town council can decide whether to have that back in or not.
I see a hand over here. Yes, sir.
I would like to propose for, as it currently printed for the bullet for Article 3, that the totals be added to the bullet for what a yes vote would be and what a no vote would be. Those people are not inclined to read the whole article.
I want to make sure I understand what you're requesting. You're
operating budget total, and you could say a yes vote would be $9,068,043. A no vote would be $9,641,000. Let's get it all right from front. Something to that effect.
there's one question that we may have, and we have to understand whether the wording of this article is prescribed by law. And if it is, then we can't change it. If it's not, we might be able to effect a change, at which point I'll take a motion to amend the article. Justin, can you take a look at that for me while we move on in discussion? Thank you. Yep. Brian? Mr. Hart? Sorry. Mr. Brian Hart?
I just wanted, some of you were here for the public hearing, but there's a lot more people here. And I just wanted you to hear a quick summary of the changes the Budget Committee made that resulted in this lower number from what the council proposed. The total amount of changes reduced the budget by about $160,000 to the current number of $9,068,000. And just quickly, the kind of strategy in the discussions of the Budget Committee was reducing unnecessary expenditures this year, using capital reserve funds that we had that were already raised in previous years to the extent possible, reducing the capital reserve fund transfers to that for future expenditures as possible, and then trying to eliminate increases in other areas. And the council did some interesting things too. They eliminated the Director of Administrative Services position, which was a relatively new position, so that's no longer in the budget. And they have continued contracting out for mechanical repair of our cars, so we no longer have a town mechanic. That saves the town quite a bit of money, so the council should be recognized or commended that they're taking alternative approaches to providing some of the key services. So the changes the Budget Committee made, we reduced direct assistance, which is otherwise known as welfare, by $8,000, basically because we didn't think past appropriations and expenditures actually supported the increases that were being proposed. We reduced planning and zoning by $16,000 for contracted services, which basically zeroed it out. That was because the software being proposed was not, we didn't think it was justified, and the master plan work we felt could be done by the town staff and not by contractors. We reduced $600 for phone service in the planning office because we didn't think it was necessary for there to be a cell phone. And the planner informed us that there was an inaccurate number, and that reduced it by another $400. In the MIS department, which is our computers, we reduced new equipment by $10,000 because we thought it could be coming from the CIP, the capital reserves, which has a fund balance, has a balance of $46,000. Same thing with Channel 13, which is the public television channel. We reduced it by $10,000 and directed them to try to take the money out of the capital reserve. In Public Works, we reduced it by $10,000 because we felt that overtime could be reduced and that the staffing levels could be better managed based on the discussions with the Public Works Director. Roadways and sidewalks, we reduced winter salt, which was an increase over past years, and based on historic actuals and budgeted amounts, we felt that $75,000 would be enough. Buildings and grounds, $10,000 for mosquito control. There'll still be mosquito monitoring and control, but we're trying to reduce that cost, which had grown. We reduced grants by $5,000 for cemetery maintenance, and this does not mean the cemetery maintenance won't happen. It means that we're directing them to take it from the CIP. There was a cemetery maintenance capital reserve specifically created for the purpose in the budget, and that has a balance of $9,900. And then finally, in the CIP program, we made a whole series of reductions, which I'm not going to go through, but essentially they reduced proposed increases or eliminated very small allocations to certain departments, and then suspended allocations to the McAllen Dam because we're studying whether it should be removed, and to the Veterans Memorial Trust because it was a $14,000 proposal, and we felt that there needed to be more information about the total cost, how it was going to be paid for before additional appropriations should be made to it. So, the Budget Committee worked hard to try to make this operating budget provide the services that you all want at a cost that we can afford, and we recognize that the increase this year, the unexpected increase this year was more than could be handled. So hopefully we'll be working with you to right the ship over the next couple of years and provide the services that people want.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Mr. Porterata?
Question.
I saw you that.
Question. If this article that says $9,068,043 is passed, what kind of a tax rate would that be? I mean, because we got surprises last year. We thought we were going to be breaking even, but what would be the tax rate? How much will we save?
Go ahead.
I think $750,000 is $1 on the tax rate, so it's about 80 cents. 76 cents.
Is that guaranteed?
Is it guaranteed? Hold on, they're deliberating.
Basically, the chart that we have from the town administrator indicates that the current tax rate is 703. The council's proposed one was 697, and the budget committee's proposed is 676. The reason it doesn't drop by the full reduction in the expenditures is because of a mistake on the form last year that overstated revenues from non-property tax sources by $400,000. So while we have decreased expenditures by quite a bit, there was a mistake in the revenue side, and therefore more money has to be raised from property taxes than was anticipated. Is that accurate, Matt?
And that is the town tax rate, correct?
So what is it?
$6.76, according to the spreadsheet.
27 cents lower.
Okay, say if by some big mistake that the budget that says 9,644,860, what would be the tax rate there? I'm not saying it'll happen, but what if it did? Would be an increase?
It'd be approximately 75 cents more.
I think we ought to broadcast that in the paper and everywhere.
And that relates to the gentleman's request earlier. Unfortunately, this warrant article is prescribed very carefully in the charter. It has to be put forward that way. So what I would ask is perhaps that the council will put something on the website, or I don't know how else to reach the voters if they're not watching tonight or they're not here, but a yes vote is for the lower budget and a no vote is for the higher budget. And maybe a bullet list could be placed in the public notice, but we can't put it on the ballot, unfortunately. The ballot will have to be worded exactly like it is, like that.
Well, it should be made aware of, like by pushing this school budget and everything else, you know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am. And then Mr. Pickering.
Anita Mohan, Langs Lane in Newmarket. I'm looking at the town of Newmarket's budget for 2013, and forgive me, but under resident taxes, there is nothing, and there's nothing estimated, there's nothing at all. Don't you even know what we're going to be getting in from the residents' taxes?
I'm sorry, can you tell us what document you're looking at again?
Yeah, I'm looking at the budget, the town of Newmarket's 2013 budget, and under taxes, item 3180, it says resident taxes, and there are no numbers in any of the three columns, one of which is estimated.
Thank you. Mr. Hart, you can answer the question?
And I'm looking over at Becky Benvenuti, the town clerk. The residence tax was a $10 fee that we used to have per person, and several years ago it was eliminated because it was a humongous hassle to collect.
I agree. Can I just say
So that's why it's zero.
Oh, okay, but where is the tax revenue that you get from the town listed? Where? Sorry, it's not that clear.
I'm sorry. Yes, Becky. Yes, please.
It was a tremendous hassle, but because it did not raise the revenue, the cost of raising that revenue was 50% of what was actually brought in. And we had no proper way to, and fair way to obtain the actual residents in the town of Newmarket.
Ma'am, if I may, you're asking the question about where did the property taxes come in? Where's that number?
Yeah, where's the total of that?
If you go to the last page, I think I have an outdated one, page 8. If you look at the bottom, it says estimated amount of taxes to be raised.
Great, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Mr. Pickering.
Larry Pickering, 119 Ash Swamp Road. The projected reduction on the town side is 27 cents, as Brian just stated. I believe we took roughly $3.27 rounded off hit last year, so we're reducing it by 27 cents this year. What is being projected to be done to get that $3 back out of there again? Because it was an astronomical hit that most people in this town cannot afford. So what's going to happen this coming budget cycle after this one that you folks are going to do to get that $3 out of there? Because it's too much. If we go ahead and okay it tonight, which we don't have to do, we can change it. We're gonna be looking at basically $3 higher than a year ago on the town side. I realize on the school side there is a projected reduction on their operating budget, but on the town side we're still $3 ahead of a year ago.
Thank you. So you have kind of a general policy question about what is the plans of the town to try and make up for a $3 increase in the tax. Would anybody care to respond to that? Thank you.
Well, first, I think we're mixing numbers. 2011, the tax rate for the town side was $5.42. It went to $7.03, and the proposed budget would bring it to $6.76. So there's not a $3 increase on the town side. There was a $3 increase between the town and school and county and state property taxes. So I think from the budget committee's perspective, we haven't had any discussions about next year. Some of us won't be on the budget committee next year, but my hope and my discussions with the council members has been we have to rebuild the fund balance, which the next article helps do, and then hopefully we can start allocating some of the fund balance on a sustainable basis to reduce the property taxes, but not in the way we've done it in the most recently. And then hopefully with the mills downtown being completed and renovated, that'll increase the property tax base. And hopefully we can get the Black Bear TIF or other things that will increase the property tax base. We need a broader tax base to be able to support the community we have, or we're going to have to make substantial changes to what we fund.
Thank you. Yes, we have two right there. So let's go from the bottom up. So we have horizontal stripes. You agree? So you're speaking on behalf of the person behind you as well. Okay. Moving the question. Do I have a second? Second.
Bob Daigle.
Did you get that, Becky? So, as you recall from the previous article, we're moving the question, which means now the vote is to vote. So by voting yes, you're saying let's end the debate, let's vote on this warrant article. All those in favor of moving the question and voting on the article, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. So we will now vote on Article 3, which has not been amended. Although I sympathize with the confusion. I will not read it unless, would you like me to read it again? Thank you. We will now vote on Article 3 as it's worded. All those in favor of putting forward Article 3 as it is written, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Article 4, discontinue capital reserve funds. To see if the town will vote to discontinue the following capital reserve funds. Said funds with accumulated interest to date of withdrawal. I'm going to pause a little bit. I know it can be noisy. To see if the town will vote to discontinue the following capital reserve funds, said funds with accumulated interest to date of withdrawal to be transferred to the town's general fund. 1. Waterfront Improvement Capital Reserve, established May 12, 1998, amount to be transferred $29,211. Number 2, Aquifer Protection Capital Reserve, aka Public Water Supply Land Protection Fund, established May 11, 1999, further amended on May 13, 2002, amount to be transferred $44,547.44. Number 3, Ambulance Replacement Capital Reserve Fund, established March 7, 1972, further amended on May 12, 1992, amount to be transferred $133.41. Number 4, Road Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, established May 11, 1992, further amended on May 12, 1998, amount to be transferred $2,093.10. Bridge Capital Reserve Fund, established May 8, 2007, amount to be transferred $1,261.08. Could somebody give me a total amount to be transferred in their head? Thank you very much. Did everybody hear that? The total amount is?
I'm sorry, I didn't have the mic. Dan London budget. $77,246.03, if this calculator's right.
With the caveat recognized. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
I have a point of information that, depending upon the answer, I may or may not have it in a minute. Option 1, these 5 reserve funds would continue to exist but all at 0 level. Option 2, these 5 funds would be eliminated. What are we looking at, option 1 or option 2, if this is approved?
I'm going to speak for the people around me, but the option 2 is apparently that the vote is to discontinue the funds themselves. So the funds would be eliminated, there would be no fund of that title, and the money would be withdrawn, rather than the funds being in existence with a $0 balance.
The word discontinue is ambiguous to me. It could be discontinued funding, but the fund continued to exist. But if that's the interpretation, and that's what will happen if this is approved, then I have no amendment. If that's not what would happen, I would change the word discontinue to eliminate.
Mr. Winiarski.
The wording for this warrant article was prescribed by DRA, so that way they know that it is what you want it to be, eliminated. So it's discontinued, everything will be at 0, and there'll be no longer be showing up on the town's books.
Who is DRA for the voters?
The Department of Revenue Administration.
Mr. Arcieri. Your question is it possible to take the money out of these accounts and move it into the Water Reserve Fund and, for instance, pay for part of Article 2? That was the question. Does anybody want to explain beyond just no? I see Mr. Winiarski pointing to Justin Richards.
Justin Richardson, I'm Service Town Council. The statutes governing the water fund say that it cannot be commingled with general fund revenues at all. So you wouldn't be able to do that, but it would be offsetting your taxes to some extent because it's going into the general fund.
Councilor Branch reminds me, we don't have a motion yet. Can I get a motion to move this so that we can discuss it?
I'll make the motion. Bob Daigle.
Thank you. And seconded? Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to prevent previous articles from being reconsidered. Any of the articles brought tonight from reconsideration. Okay.
I will take that motion up now. So we're going to suspend the discussion on Article 4. This is a procedural motion. Mr. Daigle is requesting that we have a vote to stop so that people don't bring up Articles 1, 2, and 3 at a later point in the meeting. Does everybody understand what the motion is? This is prescribed by state law. Without any questions, all those in favor of restricting, pardon me? I thought you seconded it. I'm sorry, Mr. LeBranch seconded it. I heard it. I didn't check to make sure you got it. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of Articles 1 through 3, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. We have one. I don't see a white tag. All right, so back to Article 4. We have a motion and a second. We have a couple of discussion points. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yes, sir.
William Foster, this $77,000 and change, will it be used to offset the quote-unquote mistake of revenue on the town side? Or is it just going directly to the general fund?
The question is, where will the money go from all these funds once it's transferred? Procedurally, one of you guys want to answer that rather than me?
Yeah, the money would go to the fund balance. So if the town's revenues and expenditures come in as they would this year, this money would be excess money that we put in the fund balance to be set aside for future, if an emergency comes up, or to offset taxes at a later date.
Well, my question is, I guess we already have a deficit, correct? So can we use this to offset that deficit somewhat? Obviously, it's not covering the whole balance. It's something I didn't know if we could use this to help.
No, this is for this fiscal year coming up, not the one we're in.
Mike, you want to add something to it?
It's a different fiscal year, so you can't do it. However, it is being used to reduce the tax rate if it's voted or approved for the current year.
Yes, sir.
I
and I'm not really questioning the motion, but I would like somebody to address that we don't need the capital reserve funds anymore. The funds that were in there for aquifer protection or any of those purposes, just why we don't need that anymore. We have to worry about that in the future. Any of those reserve funds.
I heard most of that. Let me try and rephrase and say back to you. Your question is, could somebody please provide some information on the 5 accounts to make sure that we don't need these capital reserve funds anymore? Is that your question? Thank you. Councilor Branch.
I can answer part of those. The waterfront improvement capital reserve, basically all of the work that was scheduled to happen down on the waterfront has happened. So that's no longer needed. The ambulance replacement capital reserve fund, the ambulance is now on a revolving fund that is paid through the charges that we do for the ambulance calls. Road improvement capital reserve fund is now a yearly budgeted item because in the past we weren't using the CIP properly. We were putting the money in and basically expending it in the same year, which is not the idea of a CIP. And the bridge capital reserve fund is now set up on a budget item, a line item. The only one I don't know is the aquifer protection. I don't know if somebody's got an answer for that one.
Mr. Hart?
The Aquifer Protection Fund was first created back in '99. At that time, there was concern about protecting the wells that we have up on 152 out by the pits. Some of it has been expended protecting water supplies, and the balance of that fund is pretty small. And with the location of the proposed well at the McIntosh property, we already own the property, so we don't really need the funds to protect. Most of the rest of the property is already protected by a conservation easement held by the Nature Conservancy, so it was felt it was not needed any longer. Plus, we spent $1.6 million protecting about 560 acres of land that in some ways provides a lot of this benefit.
See that you are nodding, and I assume that means you're satisfied. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I don't think we got your name.
Elizabeth Ashley.
Elizabeth Ashley? Thank you. I did not catch most of that. I'm sorry, can you come down or yell at me? I'm used to it.
Will the funds for the aquifer protection and the land protection have any effect on the dam study?
I see head shaking. Can you elaborate further? Why will it not affect the dam study?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the original intent of this fund was to buy land to protect our water sources. We don't currently have a surface water source, so the rivers are not our water sources. Our water sources are wells that are out on Route 152 and a proposed well that's off of Ashwamp Road.
Thank you. You're welcome. Anyone else? Questions? What was the question? Move the question. We don't really need to move the question. Nobody's really saying anything else. So let's move Article 4 to a vote. All those in favor of Article 4 going forward as moved, which is as written, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Thank you. Article 5, I will say one thing. A lot of you are here, and it's good. I like seeing you. I want you to understand that if you have greater concerns as next year approaches, attend the public hearing process. That's when you have your most say in changing the numbers. This process is a little bit more formulaic, and I welcome your participation, but I want you to not miss the best time for you to participate, which is during the public hearing process when the Budget Committee and the Council are going over these things. And of course, you can always run for office, which is gilded with many positive benefits. Article 5, does anyone have any other business before this town meeting? You may keep your name tags. And hearing nothing, I have a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor signify. Aye, thank you. Anybody opposed? No? Thank you. Somebody's up there pointing at people.